a trip to Insanity Island.
Yo, we're here.
Are we recording?
Right now.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Insanity Island. It's insane.
We're crazy.
Whoa. Okay, today we had a very special episode for a number of reasons. It's the first podcast of Insanity Island in 2023. That's crazy thing number one. Crazy thing number two is that we're going to do a recap of all the zaniness of 2022. Third crazy thing, we have our first guest ever. Gray Campbell. Welcome, Gray.
Let's do it the beatnik way.
Hey, Gray, why don't you introduce yourself to us here real quick?
Yes, Greg, tell us who you are.
Okay, my name is Gray, and I was invited to be on this call as a category expert, for which I am going to do my best to make Tim proud.
And Pendo, and all of our Insanity Island fans, all three of them, which includes Pendo's mom.
That's right.
Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and get started with all this zaniness, shall we? Okay, here we go. First topic of 2022. It was a crazy year. A lot happened. The war in Ukraine.
Whoa. Wow, you just go there first, don't you, Tim?
Right there.
Just going
right there.
Swinging for the fences.
So
jump right in. I don't know.
Go ahead and get started. So, first of all, I want to know an answer to a question. Had Trump been sworn in as president, I'm not going to say had Trump been elected, because I do believe he was elected, but had Trump been sworn in as president, would Putin had invaded Ukraine? I ask you, Chris Pendarvis.
Oh, hells no. For one thing, Biden took away the sanctions. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's like saying, hey, we don't care. Come on into the Ukraine. And there's some reason they want this war. The Democrats, they're suddenly war hungry. I don't know.
When you say they want this
policies
war,
did this.
You're talking about the Democrats want this war. When you say they, is that correct?
Yeah, I kind of tend to do that because they are so evil. It's just kind of hard to
they and they,
right into that.
Not we.
Yeah, yeah, they, not he or her.
Exactly.
They.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, let me ask you that. Had Trump been sworn in as president, do you think that Putin would have invaded Ukraine?
No, not in the least. Not in the least. What would have happened is there would have been a few threats similar to that of what he did when he invaded, when he was talking about expanding his presence in Crimea, which he also did under, I think he did that under Obama.
Yep.
I'm not mistaken.
And Obama sent blankets.
So he was waiting for this because he knew that there would not be any action taken by Biden. I mean, but let's face it, he's got the goods as well as China on Biden. So Biden is somewhat beholden to what Russia wants to do, even though he has to talk a good talk.
Yeah,
it's absolutely accurate.
Yeah,
it's sad, but it's true.
Here's another question. I'm gonna throw out there. We have so far given Ukraine what, about $50 billion? Is that about right?
I think we've given them more than that.
Yeah,
we in the big spending bill the other day. I believe we voted in another $37 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
And we've already given them
a lot. Yeah.
So call it at least $50 billion.
We could have bought Twitter for that.
Could have bought Twitter for that. Why will we spend $50 billion on the Ukrainian border, but they wouldn't even give Trump $5 billion to keep our own border secure? Why do you think that is?
I think you know the answer to that.
They
don't give a damn about our border. They're not doing what they want at the border. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are not failing at the border. They're not failing.
No, they are succeeding. They are succeeding.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly. This is a calculated plan to bring in more people to change the the dynamics of the voting precincts and blocks in various states to try to create more blue territories to win more Democrats into office. It's all about clamoring for power and money.
If it's like what
It's
Jada
not about
Smith
the
said,
government of this country.
it's like Jada Pinkett Smith. America's so white. So we're going to change that. We'll import the damn black people in if we have to. What I want to know, and I want them to answer me this, I thought we were a big Nazi, big Nazi country. I thought that's what we were. I thought we were just this big evil country. Why are they trying to bring more brown people in here? I thought we were murdering them and butchering them and abusing them and hurting them and urinating on them and things like that.
You're touching on a good point. It's a sensitive topic, but it's a very good point.
It's true.
If America is so racist and evil, as
Yeah.
the Democrats claim, why are they so hell bent on bringing in as many Mexicans, Latinos, and minorities as they can? I mean, it's an interesting question.
If everything is white supremacy here, and I mean the weather, the ecology, if everything is white supremacy, that's like bringing Jews into Nazi Germany.
But let's think about this.
That's a great point.
Let's think about this for just a minute. Okay, everything in human nature is cyclical, right? Hard times create tough people. Tough people create good times. Good times creates lethargy. Lethargy creates lazy people, which then turns about creates hard times, and then the cycle starts over again. So this very well could backfire on the Democrats because they're bringing in people from all parts of South America, as probably other countries as well. But all of these people are going to get sort of a free ride, but at the same time, they're not going to live in a wealthy climate. They're going to have to work, or they're going to have to go home. And I wouldn't doubt it if this could backfire, and these people in the next generation, maybe some this generation, but the next generation that is working hard to aspire to the American dream actually falls into the Republican bloc.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, that's
most of these people are not woke. They're Catholic.
Yeah,
They want to work. They're leaving socialist countries. They don't want to come to one. So they're going to look at what the Democrats have to offer. It's going to be funny as hell if they all vote Republican.
I know, but it's funny because they come in here and they say, "Oh yeah, we want the American way." And they're, Tim, if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey man, here's your Obama phone and here's some money to live on, and come join the fruits of our on the backs of the existing people in this country," I mean, of course you're going to do that. But
yeah,
at the time you're going to want to continue that. You weren't brought up in a lifestyle of being given a lot. None of these people have been given hardly anything. I mean, they're willing to die to get into this country. Now, I'm not saying that makes it right, but what it does do is it shows a character that they want to be here.
They're willing to take a risk.
They just happen to be the recipients of lots of free money.
No. Those are all very good points. Chris, you need to shift over because the camera's got you. There you go. Okay, so all right. Well,
I lean right. Okay, come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Okay. So the next topic is inflation. The big story of 2022. The war in Ukraine, now inflation. Okay, we're experiencing in 2022 the worst rise of inflation, I believe, in 40 years. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? 40 years. Okay. And a lot of people think that this inflation was manufactured by the government and the Federal Reserve. So what needs to be done to curb this inflation, or, can it be curbed at all? And, is the government making the right moves to try to tame it? I ask you, Greg Campbell.
Great question. It's going to depend on what side of the aisle that you sit on. In the eyes of the Democrats, we do not have an inflationary problem. This is something they think is going to be under control soon. It's short term, but nothing that they are doing is leading this country into having a reduced inflationary problem. One of the things that they did, not just one of the things, but many of the things that President Trump had done to keep interest rates down and keep inflation down, the Democrats totally reversed, not because of their understanding of the economic policy, but because it was President Trump's policy.
Not yet, yeah, just despite Trump. So, Chris, let me phrase the question to you in a different way. Had Trump been inaugurated as president, would we be having inflation? Would the inflation be as severe as it is now?
We wouldn't have inflation. I mean, he didn't shut everything down. They did. I mean, there were a few things that were shut down, but he wanted to reopen everything immediately, and he wouldn't have spent $100 kajillion to fix inflation, which does the reverse. Do you know how we know that they were lying about the inflation bill? You know how we know that they were lying? Because sounds were coming out of their freaking mouths. So we knew they were lying. And that's
whenever their mouths move, they're lying. Is that it?
Exactly. What they do is they'll make a law or they'll make a bill that is like the most atrocious thing you can, and then they'll name it, lollipops and gummy bears law. And if the Republicans don't vote, they're against lolly bears and gummy drops. They hate lolly bears.
They hate America.
Yeah, they hate them. This is called the America is Great bill, and then
that's exactly what we do. What they do, they name things that do the opposite. Remember the Affordable Care Act? Remember that one? What did it do? It made health insurance go up by triple.
Yeah, and we were promised we could keep doctors and all that, but not to digress, but a couple of things on the inflation. One of the things that America is supported on the backs of small business. Small business sustains America. So a couple of things that inflation has caused is difficulty finding and retaining employees, and then how the minimum wage might work, and interest rates. Interest rates to borrow money to continue to grow their business. One of the things that I was reading the other day talked about the minimum wage, how it should not be a national minimum wage, but it should be a minimum wage based on a particular location. For example, New York City is going to be different than Jackson, Mississippi. And
the cost of living is much higher.
Yeah, but when you make one rate to a one size fits all rate, what you're doing is creating an over abundance of cash in one area, while it might not be enough in another area. So
yes, I think that's a good point.
You could end up propelling the existing problems. But small business knows how to overcome this, and what they're doing right now is they're looking for better and different ways to compensate their employees, and they're trying to remain somewhat nimble. And this could be in certain dynamics of leave time or vacation or any other things that might be non-monetary.
Well, small business employs more people than anyone else, and as small business is effective, so are the rest of us. Take the labor shortage, for example. I mean, small businesses are having a really, really, really hard time finding people. If you want to get your house remodeled right now, good luck. I mean, good luck, which creates even more inflation. So, and instead of trying to help in that problem, they're making it worse with all these government giveables. It's unbelievable.
There's a real quick fix to making it where people can make more money, and that is to get rid of the minimum wage. There shouldn't even be one. If I want to pay some kid and he's agreeing to do it, $2 an hour to deliver groceries to somebody's house, makes tips, that's between me and that kid.
But you know what it's doing? The minimum wage is causing businesses to rethink how they employ capital. They're increasing their understanding and their implementation of new technological methods to accomplish the same tasks.
Well, I like what McDonald's is doing.
Yeah.
Oh, you want $27 a minute to flip burgers? Yeah, we'll just put robots in here. Yeah. Bye, job. See you later, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, even when
Here's
you
your
walk
money.
even when you walk into a store now, you have a great big kiosk by which you can place your order. And ultimately that pays for itself. But
Well, it also shows that these idiots. Look, I'm sorry. Those are supposed to be entry level jobs. You're not supposed to be raising children flipping burgers in McDonald's. You're just not supposed to be doing that.
Mhm.
And if you are, stop having children. Quit making me pay for it. Quit making Tim pay for it.
Oh boy, that's a good point. Now,
Gray, he
here's
doesn't
the
mind. He'll pay for it, but I'm not going to pay for it.
here's the other point about the labor shortage. As government gets bigger and bigger and bigger, every aspect of government has probably tripled in our lifetimes, at least from local government to state government, federal government. Well, guess what? They're competing with small businesses for employees. So the government can come in and offer thick pensions, great benefits, a competitive wage. Oh, and by the way, you really don't have to work that hard. You just show up, dilly-dally around, because as we all know, it's about impossible getting fired by the government. So as bigger government gets, the more it competes with businesses, thus competes with the labor shortage. Okay, so.
And as long as you check the right boxes, you can go steal luggage from airports.
Like Biden administrative people do, right?
Yeah, they do. They do that a lot.
Okay, so pivoting to the stock market. Okay, we had one of the worst stock markets this year in recent memory. And not only was the stock market really bad, but the bond market was really bad. If you had invested in bonds in 2021 in an equal increment as stocks, you would have gotten absolutely crushed. So this was a very bad stock market. It was a very, very, very bad bond market. So if you did the 60-40, which is what everybody said you should do, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, you lost half your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to propose this to you, Gray. Would the stock market and bond market, would the wealth destruction would been severe had we had a Republican in the White House in 2020?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer, because we did shut the economy down during the Trump administration, and while we were on a screamingly upward trajectory, there was some overpricing in the stocks, and so there was a natural correction that was expected to happen. But the problem now is not who's in the White House. The problem is we have had the stock market implosion and the bond market. And a lot of the bond market, bond prices are directly tied to interest rates. So when interest rates go up, bond prices typically go down. And so so if the U.S. Treasury interest rates are going up, every other general obligation bond, a county revenue bond, all those interest rates are tied to that barometer and how that goes up. Then so yeah, if you bought bonds when interest rates were really low, then yeah, you lost a lot of money. Conversely, if you bought a house during that same time and secured an extremely low interest rate, you're looking great right now. So,
yeah, that's true.
but
true.
The average American family lost $4,000 to $5,000 in real income last year, and they're having a tough time recovering that. I mean, with the stock market's down between 25 and 35%. Certain stocks, big tech stocks, some of which are down, 60, 70%. I mean, we've got a long way to recover.
Well, there is one
Indeed.
stock that I'm very glad is down, and that belongs to the big mouse.
Talking about Disney.
I hope they go out of business.
So Disney stock has been absolutely battered. I think this year alone it was down 40%?
Over 40.
Yeah.
Disney's gotten so woke.
Broke.
And that leads to the next topic I have is the wokeness, not only in the government, but corporations and of course by Hollywood and the media. So
how you can stop the wokeness immediately? Going back to what Gray said was damn it, we need a good apocalypse. We need a good end of the world, because immediately the I don't know what gender I am would go away. The
Yeah,
I'm
that would be
confused
the
on
last
everything
of
would
people's
go away.
problems.
The strong men would take over. The women would start taking care of the babies. And damn it, that's the way it should be.
Well,
Well,
a couple of things on wokeness. Wokeness was originally coined as a phrase, basically of being a quality of being alert about
Right.
social injustice.
Like you've awakened to all these problems.
But if you think about it, when it started out at first, it was very much based on like the Rainbow Coalition coming in and twisting the arms of companies, saying, "Hey, you're not beefing up the African Americans in your companies." And in some cases, those were springboards by which they were able to go to other companies, and these other companies thought, well, do we pay a big amount of money to the Rainbow Coalition or endure a fight and bad publicity? And the media became known as woke, and they were giving all this publicity to these organizations, whether a company was guilty of it or not. And I'm the first one to say, if a company is guilty of something like that, let's get that fixed. But not all companies are like that. But they try to categorize every company in America as not being woke. And now all these companies suddenly put these woke people in the positions of power so they can take that idea and go with it. And it's having a devastating effect.
Like Kathleen Kennedy for Star Wars.
A business in America.
well, it's having a devastating effect because what it's done is it's leading to a form of censorship. And if someone does say something that isn't even really that I don't think harmful, they're immediately fired or the threat of being fired. I think that's what has created a
It's
frustration.
leading to tyranny is what it's leading to.
Yeah, well, and that too.
Did you see what happened with
But you're right. You're on the censorship. You're exactly right, because there's certain circumstances when somebody wants to, say, profess their Christian faith, they are not allowed to do that in this woke community.
Did you see that woman that got arrested in Britain for praying?
No.
She was praying outside of an abortion clinic in Britain, and she wasn't even talking. She wasn't even saying anything. The police came up to her and asked her, "Are you praying?" And she said, "I might be." They hauled her off to jail. She's facing 3 years.
Well, you know what?
That's terrible. That's terrible.
There's absolute biblical scripture that talks about that.
It does. It's in the book of Revelations.
And
It talks about how down will be up will be down.
yeah,
Everything will be reversed. What you think is good will be bad.
Mhm.
Reverse that. Parents won't recognize their own children, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's going to be a cloud of darkness, and it's interesting. And Tim, we take a little sidebar here. Revelation 13 talks a great deal about the destruction, the planned destruction of the world due to mankind, bringing it on themselves. And then Revelation 14 talks about the grace and the exit back out when the world will repair itself with the second coming of Christ.
And who knew that it was going to be ushered in by a stupid little evil mouse?
Disney has gone so woke.
Why do they feel compelled?
No, it's an evil. It's an absolute evil.
Why do they feel?
Same thing with transgenderism in the schools, the programs.
This is how I argue against when I'm talking to these people. I look them dead in the eye and I say, why are you obsessed and why do you feel compelled to talk to a 4-year-old about his pee-pee?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is wrong with you, you sick freaking pedophile?
Oh, I'll give you another one. And these are children, before their testicles have dropped and before they even know certain things, they say, "Oh, I must be gay." Well, if eventually if they're gay, that's one thing. But there was a 5-year-old boy that was in the crowd when
doesn't even know what gay is.
When Pete Buttigieg was talking about his own sexual preferences, and the little boy said, I think I'm gay. And Buttigieg pulls him up on stage,
I saw that.
parades this guy, this little boy. This little boy very well may not be gay, but Buttigieg used him as a platform, a springboard of
course
which
they did.
he could.
I mean, that's sick, right?
It's
That's
seriously-
disgusting, right?
Look, I can tell
Okay.
you this. I grew up from nursery school all the way to high school. I had no idea who any of my teachers slept with. Didn't care. Never knew. Why is that so important now to these people? Oh my God, if we don't talk to little 4-year-olds about sex, they'll die. What? Where did that come from? Actually, I do know where it came from. It is part of the Communist Manifesto to break up the nuclear family. That's how you do it.
Totally. That is part of the playbook. It is part of the Marxist playbook. And
They said
what?
they
Well,
drive wedge
what's
between the
more?
families.
What's more sad, Chris? What's more tragic? It's happening right before our very eyes, and no one seems to be, and no one's really standing up to stop it. Certainly not Mitch McConnell. I mean, the leadership in the Republican Party is standing there and just letting it happen. It's absolutely disgusting. But I want to ask you, Chris, because you're very attuned to this. Can you give us in 2022 Disney's biggest example of wokeness, whether it be one of their main characters being gay or teaching a child about homosexuality? Can you give us an example of that among the Disney products, Disney media, Disney movies?
Beyond the Disney product, did you see the video that got out, that got leaked out, where they were having meetings about bragging about putting gay sex and transgender stuff? They were laughing about it. They're not so private agenda that they were bragging about. It's an agenda. They have admitted it on video. They have hired people to implement this stuff, and they are. Every damn movie that they put out this year and all the TV shows start with checking LGBTQ boxes, not making a good story, not, writing well-arched characters. No, are you gay enough? Do you have enough gay people? Oh, wait, that guy's too white. Let's make him black. Why? Because woke, and they've admitted this. They've done that. They are just, I guess it reminds me of the Joker sitting on the big pile of money. Oh, don't worry. It's just my half. And he's burning it all to the ground. That's what they're doing right now. I guess they decided they don't like money anymore.
Well,
Can you name a movie they've done this year that's been successful? I
cannot. And there was a big movie that was released that was supposed to be their big blockbuster, and I'm trying to recall the name of it.
Oh, you talking about that cartoon?
Yes,
They spent $185 million on that.
Wow.
185 million, and they're openly teaching a child about homosexuality.
Well, what it is in the video, everything's woke. There aren't any real. I think there's one white character. Everybody's it looks like the Star Wars bar scene. Even the dog is disabled.
Okay.
Anyway, Bond. Nobody wanted to see it. You've got gay scenes with tweens.
Let me. I've got something to go with this, and I ask you, Gray Campbell, do you think that some of this cries of supposed racism, social injustice, and so forth, do you think that this could be manufactured in order to create virtue signaling?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, more so than anything, I don't think these people represent anywhere near the majority. I think you've got the extreme far, I won't even say 5%. You've got the extreme far left 3% that are garnering all of the attention of the media. So the media blows it up into something that it's really not. When in fact, but then conversely, you have 3% of the extreme far right that can create certain problems. But in the middle, you have 95% of people who just want this country to live in a normal way. I don't really honestly believe that the electorate that we have in place really is representing nearly the interests of this country.
I don't even
Well-
think all of the gay LGBTQ people want this.
No, I've got a lot of gay friends, and they hate what's going on.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell? I don't need to talk. to
Yeah,
my
but they
people
don't
about
vote
sex.
Republican. But they don't vote Republican.
You know what?
They're
don't-
still voting for this shit, and that's something that is very, very puzzling. It's very, very puzzling. Look at the Herschel Walker race. I mean, just look at the
Well, I mean,
Raphael Warnock Herschel
that,
Walker
that
race.
applies. That applies to you know. I mean, if you really think about the gay community, the Jewish community, the Asian community, the common denominator of these communities is that they're, for the most part, hard workers. They're productive U.S. citizens. But
Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, stop talking about white supremacy stuff.
no,
Like,
I'm not-
like a
maybe-
work ethic and
maybe
junk
it's
like
the white
that.
guys that are the bad guys. But if you look at the Asian community, if you look at the Jewish community, the gay community, most of them are all gainfully employed. Most of them are contributing to the American economy. They're not dragging it back. But then you do have the people that are creating the problems. And since we're able to use bad language, remember the pussy hats? Remember the pussy
Oh yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
I'm not, those people are who I'm talking about that are creating the problems.
Well, I'll sum it up this way. I'll sum it this way with all this wokeness and social injustice and all that. You know, what I don't see are videos of blacks being refused food at a lunch counter or a diner. But what I do see are videos of certain people throwing chairs at white Waffle House employees. That's what I do see. I do see a lot of looting. I see a lot of people breaking into stores. You know, where's this social injustice? Where is it? Okay,
I don't know, but I'll tell
I'd
you
like to
what.
see some examples of this so-called racism.
Well, when it comes to slavery, I just want to tell the black population, and by the way, this is not anywhere near all the black that feel this way, but for the ones who feel oppressed, I just want to say you're welcome for freeing you from your people enslaving you.
You mean the
You talking about the African tribes that were leading slavery back in the 1700s, 1800s?
Yeah, we didn't start that. That had been going on for hundreds of years with them and the Middle Easterners. We joined it about 300 years later. But you know who didn't end it? Them. You know who did end it? We did. So you're welcome. Oh, by the way, Juneteenth, bunch of white straight men did that. You're welcome for that too.
Yeah, we don't get the credit, but we're all evil and racist. Remember?
Yeah.
Evil, racist, white people. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pivot now. I'm going to pivot to the. I'm going to pivot to the fall of Trump. I'm going to call this topic the fall of Trump and the rise of Ron. Okay, so
The rise of
we've
Ron.
got the rise of Ron. Okay, we've got Ron DeSantis, who justifiably so, the new darling of the Republican Party, right? Everybody and their brother is screaming for Ron DeSantis for run for president. Okay.
Well, he's Trump without the baggage.
Well, he's Trump without the baggage, exactly. We have Donald Trump, who has already announced running for 2024. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna make a general statement, then I'm gonna ask for some commentary. Okay. Shame on the Republican Party and shame on Republican voters for having such a short-term memory for Donald Trump and everything he risked and everything he did and everything he stood for and everything he's willing to do. And everyone is all in love with Ron DeSantis, which, look, I like Ron DeSantis too, don't get me wrong. But most Republicans feel that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. If you were to poll 100 Republicans, I think at least 51 of them would say, yeah, it was probably stolen from Trump. Yet, if you ask 100 Republicans by random, should Trump run again for 24, probably only about 15 of them would say yes.
That's only because of the baggage. That's because
let's talk about that baggage. What's his baggage? Fighting
well, his
too
baggage.
hard?
His baggage is he shoots himself in the foot.
he does
And
do that.
I think everybody can agree on that. he says things that literally kill his message. He has a great product to sell. He probably best in our lifetimes, but he is pouring gasoline, pouring water on the fire because he says something and it just takes away his argument. And people ultimately, you know, my father always taught me people do business with people they like. And ultimately, if the people don't like what he says, eventually they don't like him and they won't want to do business with him despite how good the product is. So then you get a guy like Ron DeSantis who has virtually the same product line, but he gives it in a different message. That's why people are gravitating over it. It's not so much an age thing. Joe Biden has perpetuated the age narrative that old people shouldn't be in the White House. But, you know, Trump has, you know, all his faculties still in order. Everything's going great. Biden is the one who should not be run. He should never have run. In fact, you know, he really didn't run. He sat in his basement for the entire time.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have run when he was 30 either.
No, he shouldn't have.
He was an idiot back then too.
Well, I mean, no, all he did was plagiarize, steal, and in 2 years of government, he didn't do anything productive.
He was also raised by Puerto Ricans, and his dad was a truck driver.
You talking about all those
and
lies
graduated
that
the top of his
Biden-
class, and
all
he's got
those
3
lies that
degrees.
Biden made up. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. He Joe Biden has been caught in so many lies, and the
Hey,
media
he'll
just gives him a
challenge you to
total pass.
push-ups, buddy. He'll challenge you to push-ups. You
Well,
better watch out.
it's
That's
going
right.
to be
Come
real.
on, man. Come on, man.
It's going to be real interesting to
Yeah,
see
really.
who emerges from the Republican Party. So it's time for predictions. Okay, I'll go ahead and predict. I do feel that Donald Trump will be the 2024 Republican nominee for president of the United States. Crispin Darvish, your prediction.
If DeSantis does not run, which I don't think he will, I think Trump will get it. But if DeSantis runs, he's going to divide. And this is what I'm worried about. If DeSantis runs and beats Trump, please, God Almighty, Trump, don't go start a third party.
Yeah. See, that's what
If you do that, you're gonna kill your own legacy if you do that.
Well, no, you know, Trump will go from being great to being the GOAT.
Yep, he will.
And he really does carry the weight, but nobody has his ear. It seems like he seems, you know, and these people that were on his good side during the administration, Bill Barr, Mike Pence, and others,
Pompeo.
have turned on him because they realize
John Bolton.
Yeah, he's got. Well, he had turned on him before, but he's got a poison about him in the way he delivers his product, and they cannot let him go in with the sour grapes of having the election stolen. You know, he can touch on that, but he really needs. People want to now. They don't want to talk about past history. They want to talk about what are you going to do for me from 2024 to 2028. That's all people want to know at this point. Are we going to climb out of these doldrums? Yeah, bad things happened back in 2020. We all know that, but there's nothing that we can do to fix that. And whenever we tried, the courts turned it down. So to fight that fight is going to be counterproductive to entirely what we want to accomplish for 2024.
Yeah, he needs to quit going after Pence and them. Just let it go.
Yeah, drop it.
You know, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think those are good points. Okay. So next topic, Santos. We have a congressman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That ran as a Republican and won. And Chris, why don't you provide a little insight on this?
Well, it turns out the guy lied about every part of his everything. He may not even be gay because he was married to some woman before. What else? Oh God. There was a bunch. Oh my God. There was
He lied about his business background, correct?
Yeah, oh yeah. And he lied about he has no degree.
No degree.
Everything. He lied about everything. But you know what? I don't give a damn. Joe Biden's our president, and he's the biggest liar we've ever seen ever. They don't seem to care about that. But no, if a Republican lies, suddenly,
Elizabeth Warren lied about her Indian heritage, right?
hey, that Viking woman was an Indian.
Okay. Well, you know, to your point, Chris, it's almost like, hey, we got to fight fire with fire here.
Well, no.
Yeah.
My point is this. Normally, I'd say that clown needs to get out of here. Not now. Why do y'all care? Why? Oh, Democrats. Suddenly we care about somebody lying. That's just as fake as their, oh no, our democracy is at stake. Was it at stake when BLM was burning it to the ground? You didn't care about it then. Plus, I thought we were just a bunch of Nazis anyway. You hate the country, you hate the Constitution. Now suddenly, our democracy. Oh, shut up. You
Yeah.
don't care about our democracy.
Yeah, these people don't even understand what a constitutional republic is.
No, they don't. They want us to be more like India
Yeah.
and
Mob
have
rule is something
mob rule, basically.
Yeah.
So,
But
well,
then again, they're stupid people. So, there you go.
105ers, Chris?
Actually, I was wrong about that. The average IQ in this country is not 105. You know what it is? 98.
That's not good.
That's
that's
really
not.
low.
That's only 10 points above Forrest Gump.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
He
Our
does make me
people-
look intelligent, though, so I'm glad about that.
Well, there you go. At least somebody here can be smart. Okay, that's good. Now, let's talk about the whole transgender rights for a moment. Now, there was a man, I believe it was in Virginia, whose daughter
Virginia.
was sexually assaulted in a girl's bathroom
Yeah.
by a boy who the school gave this boy the right to use the girl's bathroom. So what does he do? He goes in there and rapes a girl. Okay, so the father, girl who had been raped, goes to a school board meeting to protest the policy of allowing boys who think they're a girl one day and go in the girl's bathroom. And he was tackled and held down by the police that were there
He was arrested.
present.
He was arrested.
Well, he was arrested.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's more important, these transgender rights or the rights of someone like this father who's trying to protect his daughter while she's at school? What's more
Right.
important?
That doesn't even warrant an answer. Of course, the girl, even because whether she's attacked by someone who's a man or someone who thinks he's a woman, she deserves protection. That the answer to that question really is outside the realm of the transgender issue of rights. Do I believe a man has the right to go and have his penis filleted and to pretend he's a woman? Absolutely. That's his right. But he does not have that right to impose that belief on us, our schools, our churches, our businesses at all.
But great. It's happening. That's my
Oh.
point. It's happening. So you don't even have to have the sex change operation. You just say, hey, I'm a boy, but you know what? I identify as a girl, so let me use the girls' bathroom. Let me compete in girls' sports.
No, well, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, but
This is what's happening.
It's like the other day at a school board meeting, a woman came to the meeting dressed up as a cat, and she said, "I'm a cat. I'm a cat. Meow, meow. I'm not a woman dressed as a cat. I'm a cat." And then she says, "How many of you all really do believe that I'm a cat?" And nobody raises their hand. And so, how many of you believe that a child from the school would believe I'm a cat? Nobody raises their hand. And after nobody continues, she says, "You're right. Truth prevails over imagination. Reality exists. I'm not a cat." And she uses that as an analogy of these men who simply put on lipstick and a dress and pretend like they're a woman. They're not women. Their Y chromosomes are still a man.
Well, I can just throw their whole argument in the trash. They try to say a transgender woman is a woman. And I just come back with, then why do you have the word transgender in front of it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, there you go. There you
Obviously,
go.
you're not a woman. Look, if you were born and I can prove it. Bottom, and I've talked to you about this before, Tim. Look, if you're born a dude, if you're born a chick, the way that you prove that they're wrong and we're right is that 2,000 years from now, when aliens come and pull their stupid bones out of the desert, they're going to look at it and go, look, it's a chick. They're going to count the chromosomes and the bone density, and they're going to go, oh, that's a female.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's a male.
The X and Y chromosomes. Exactly.
Exactly. You can't change that, not even in surgery. So deal with stuff. As far as transgender rights, sorry, I wanted to be the Hulk when I was a little kid. I didn't get to be. Deal with stuff. Sorry, you can't get what you want all the time. You can't go into that bathroom. You say, I want to go in that. Deal with stuff. You don't get what you want all the time. Grow up. Quit acting like children.
You know, you bring up a good point. It's kind of all getting about give everything what they want, no matter what, no matter how
But it's
perverted,
also about
no
only
matter how
their feelings.
twisted.
It's also, they're so narcissistic. They don't care about the women that they're beating the crap out of in these sporting events. They don't worry about the women who they're freaking out when they go into a bathroom and pull their penis out and start doing their stuff. They don't care about them. They only care about their own feelings. It's called narcissism on steroids. And that's what this generation is. And Gray is right. We're going to need a good old-fashioned apocalypse to cure it.
Well,
Hopefully
hopefully that won't happen.
again. You know,
I
this
guess we'll
is
see.
not the first time this has happened. You can look at ancient Rome. You can look at all the different points in history where we've had softness, and softness creates soft people, deserving people, whatever. Then you have a crushing blow that hits the country or the region, whatever, and it creates the tough people again. And this stuff will be, you know, and we've experienced that to a great degree on a minor level in between certain presidential candidates. When we had Jimmy Carter wanted us to dial back our heaters, get used to high inflation rates, get used to dealing with less. Ronald Reagan came in and said, I see America, the greatness that it can be. And he changed the minds of everybody. He changed attitude, changed the tax code, and he rebuilt the country into the strength that it is today. We had a stronger military, everything, because people got sick of being sick and tired under Jimmy Carter.
That's right. Reagan was the first one to say, make America great again, by the way. Ronald Reagan also was the anti-establishment candidate. Just by the way. Okay.
When Trump came in, he did the same thing. If you remember when Joey B, that's his hood name, by the way.
God. Yeah.
And Obama were running things as a junta in this country. Do you remember how they were saying, sorry, 2% growth is going to be the regular norm now?
Yeah, the rate
high unemployment's going to be the regular norm. Just like what Carter said. Trump came in and said, hell no, we're going to do this, 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 and this. Within a year and a half, everybody had a job. GDP was up to about 5%. You just proved them to be wrong. And the reason they were wrong is because they were talking.
Yep.
Their lips were moving. Okay, so moving on to another great topic. Sports. By the way, Georgia in the national title game next Monday. So 2022 saw a dramatic implementation of two huge things that have what a lot of people think to be the largest amateur sports in the world, college football. We can all agree college football, that's the largest amateur sport in the world, right?
Oh, by far.
By far. So we've got two big things. We have the transfer portal and we have the NIL money. Okay, so let's talk about the transfer portal first. So today, this year, you no longer have to sit out a year. You can enter your name into what's called a transfer portal, which is just a computer website, and suddenly you're eligible to go to any school you want immediately. As Burton did, one of Georgia's best wide receivers went to Alabama for no reason, just because he wanted to go to Alabama. So He went to Alabama and became a starting receiver at Alabama, which was a terrible decision on his part. But he's not playing for a national championship like Georgia is. But what do you guys think of the transfer portal? And I'd like to know your opinion of. I know why it was created. At least I think I do. Why do y'all think the transfer portal was created in the first place?
Right.
Justin Fields. That's
Okay.
the answer. But
Okay.
okay, so there were so many players that for whatever reason felt like they had to transfer. They didn't want to sit out a year. So what they did was they just said, "Oh, I'm a victim of racism," and boom, NCAA would grant them exemption from sitting out a year, just like what Justin Fields did. And this started to happen more and more and more. So finally, the NCAA just goes, forget it. We're just going to let everybody transfer whenever they want. What do you think of that? I ask you, Chris Darvis. Do you think my theory is correct?
Yeah, but I hate to say it, they let the coaches do it.
Yeah.
And the coaches are the ones lying to these kids saying, "I'm going to be here with you." And then as soon as they get a better offer, they're gone.
Well, I mean, it's just like when what's his name? His name escapes me. The Jackson State coach, Deion Sanders, left
Oh, yeah.
to go to Colorado. You know, he got with several of his great players and brought them with him to Colorado. That should not be allowed. You know,
But that shouldn't be allowed. That's raping a team.
yeah, it really is. I mean, if I were the head of a college
I'd
and
sue with
signing
them.
a coach to a multi-year contract, a provision would be you can't take or recruit players. Business has it in theirs. They have what are called non-compete contracts.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know, you got to have a maybe a 2-year window that you cannot contact any of your former players to get them to transfer with you, because schools spend millions of dollars on coaches and programs, and they build these programs and they recruit these students from high school to come to their schools. And granted, the players bring a lot of value to the school, but there's a commitment level that needs to be maintained by the students, and the coaches need to honor that as well. You know, they preach to these kids about honor and commitment and love of school and all that, but these kids I call them kids, these football players are beginning to believe that they are worth more than the honor of the school, and they're doing themselves and the schools a disservice.
Yeah,
I
that's
say,
a
I
great
say let
point.
them go.
Now, I will say this, that the issues of name, image, and likeness, the NIL,
Yeah, the NIL. That was my next
yeah,
topic.
that can play
Big money.
because some of these guys have a lot of TV coverage. Heisman candidates, they have brand value before they ever get out of school, and so there is a value that should be given to them for the time, but it should be put in some kind of trust or something like that, not to make the kid rich during college.
I mean, could you imagine having $1 million and being in college? Like what that could do to a kid. So the NIL money. Okay.
Well, I mean, think about how many schools have been on probation for giving a student a car or even a dinner or something like that. You know.
Oh, well, that's an interesting point, because a lot of people think the reason that the NCAA endorsed the NIL money, the NIL contracts, these kids, because they're still kids. I mean, you can get NIL money 18 years old now. I mean, you know,
Well, you're an adult.
Bryce Young did. You know, the Alabama quarterback got $1 million last year. You know, NIL money. So he was right out of high school. So the NIL money is big. It's big money. But some people argue that it's a good thing because of the booster system. The booster system used to pretty much run college football in terms of who would get what players, because the boosters would come in and say, yeah, let's raise a pool of money among some successful alumni, and let's give this kid, you know, $200,000, $300,000 cash under the table, and it'll all be a secret to recruit him to come play for our
Right.
school.
Right.
So the NIL money has pretty much killed that. So now it's just out in the open. It's legitimate. But is it good for amateur sports? Ask you, Chris Medaris.
No, not really. But it's done. Nothing you can do about it. I mean, honestly, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And they
I mean,
shouldn't
it's
be,
fair.
honestly, these stupid Madden games and the video games, they don't need to use these kids to sell their games. They're going to buy those games anyway. I thought that was stupid that they would. If I was the owner of the video games, I would just say, we'll just put generic players up there. I mean, we're still going to sell the game. They're not buying it because that person's in the game. They're buying it because these kids love video games and they love playing football video games. They're still going to buy it. Like the Madden game was popular back when it was just generic player. So why'd you have to go and add the kids and their names and their face? They're only going to be there for 24 months anyway.
Yeah, I know.
It's a joke, you know? If they hadn't done that, none of this would have happened.
Well, the NIL money, the transfer portal, it's changed the face of college football forever. I guess we'll just see how it plays out. Now, next on the list, we're now in the arts and culture section. So, has wokeness contributed to the dilution of what artists, musicians, actors, comedians can say and do? I ask you, Gray Campbell.
Say that again.
Has the wokeness contributed to the dilution of what comedians, actors, musicians can do and say? Like Dave Chappelle, for instance.
They try to, but I think good comedy can surpass that, and the comedians are not couching their comments, and they're getting some of the best reviews.
And you know what's
Now,
funny? You remember Blazing Saddles?
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
how
Could they
offensive
make
that was? You know how they
they
say
make that movie today? Could they make that movie today?
Oh, look at the TV show Sanford and Son. How about that? I mean, that's one of the greatest.
Same thing.
Yeah, but with Blazing Saddles, I'm claiming that the people who are against it, well, they just don't like black people. That's what it is. They're just white supremacists for not liking that movie. Do you know why? Richard Pryor wrote it.
Richard Pryor wrote that movie.
Yep. He was supposed to star in it, but he couldn't because he was signed off to do some other movie. So he didn't have time to do it. So that's why they got that other guy to play the sheriff. But he wrote it. He wrote all that racist stuff in there on purpose. So I guess if you don't like Blazing Saddles, I guess you just don't like black comedians.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think
That's a good point.
It's kind of walking a fine line for everybody, because you know it's certain things that it just create political incorrectness with some groups that does not create political incorrectness with others.
I remember being a kid and being told by teachers and parents, hey, toughen up. If you don't like something you hear, just suck it up. There's freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is supposed to protect not the speech you agree with, but the stuff you don't agree with.
That's right. That's
and
right.
if you can't deal with that, then see, today they have a safe space. You can just run to you can run over to your safe space and be a snowflake and throw out cries of racism, you know.
Now, Chris, you're an artist and a musician. Do you think that the music today is more created or more manufactured?
Tim, I don't believe there's any music today. Next question, please. Thank you.
So why do you think that young people aren't getting together and forming bands? You know, you have your guitarist, you have your bass player, you have your keyboardist, you have your drummers, you know, and you get out there and you rehearse and you practice. And how come that's not happening anymore?
I can answer that.
Yes.
Because the IQ in America has dropped to 98. That's why. We're all just a bunch of stupid retards. And yeah, I'm going to say the word retard.
So,
here is the problem right here.
He's right.
Okay.
He's right. That's a dumb-making machine.
This thing.
If you want to be dumb, have one of those.
This thing has created. No, what it's done is it's created the mindset of these children that it's more appropriate to communicate with the text rather than with the spoken word. And the art of the spoken word is something that's dying quickly in schools. It's dying in everywhere because
Well, they've
people,
also been taught.
and all of us are just as guilty because we all do emails and texts. We don't have near the phone conversations we used to
They've
have.
also been taught that violence that they disagree with is violence, and they're supposed to be protected from that. It's insane. We're living in crazy world. If aliens came to Earth right now, they'd look around and go, "How do these people procreate? Everybody's gay." They wouldn't know. Wow, it's a planet of gay people. How'd so many of them get here?
So now to the musicians in the bands, Chris, okay. It used to be like we were in high school, we were college, a lot of high school kids. I remember you formed a band, you would play guitar, you would sing for the band. Why don't you see that anymore with young people? I mean, are they doing these sorts of things anymore, or is that hobby, that thing about just creating a band, is that just gone? I mean, is it like that? Rarely do I see a high school, college kids in a band, whether it's just practicing, because they used to do it for free, like the Battle of the Bands. Remember
You know how
the Battle of
long
the
it
Bands?
took me to learn how to play the guitar? About 2 years of constantly playing.
Yeah.
And they don't have any discipline today. They just want to hit a Casio. That's it. I mean, honestly, when they do the Grammys, how do they give Musician of the Year award? I mean, who's a musician these days? I don't see anybody. I mean, why? Where? There's no kids in bands.
Have
anymore.
they just lost interest in music and creating it, or do they just feel the musical instruments are just too difficult to learn how to play?
Well, I don't really consider hip hop music because it's okay. I look at hip hop as a urban rhythmic poem. There's no singing. Nobody's playing an instrument. They don't really write lyrics. They write rhymes. And so there's really no actual music being played except for what they stole from that record in the 1970s to put it on their thing.
Well,
yeah, they do a lot of that.
Are you talking about where they take an old record and then add in some of their hip hop?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if they sample a part of a hit, put it on their own. Go, look what I did.
But
no,
Chris,
you didn't.
Chris, here's my question. There are more, kids ages from 15 to 25 than ever before, right? Why doesn't that segment of the population want to create music with musical instruments anymore? Why is that?
Because it takes effort. It's hard to do. It's not easy. And everybody wants easy now. We really do have a bunch of stupid kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have an easy culture. They want it easy.
Right now.
If this is any example of what's going on, I think y'all are talking about the laziness or the apathetic of young males. So, as y'all know, my family owns a restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you worked there. I worked there. Back in those days, and I'm talking about the 80s here, roughly a third of our labor pool was teenage males. Is that fair to say? The kitchen help, the cooks, the busboys, the dishwashers.
Not anymore.
About a third, though. Would you say that's correct?
Oh,
roughly
easy.
A third. Yeah. Okay. Do you know when the last time a young male came in and applied for a job? When I say young male, a male from age 14 to 25.
At your restaurant?
Yeah, to come apply for a job at the restaurant.
Yeah. Probably 2 years.
10 years.
Wow.
We have not had a young male come apply for a job in 10 years. My question is, what are they doing? Okay, they're not forming bands. They're not working. So what are they doing? And how do
Ray was right. They're on their phone, dude. That's it. They're hooked in. They're plugged into the matrix. They're not leaving.
But how do they earn the money for their basic like the gas for their car when they turn 16? Saving up for a car when
Mommy.
they turn 16. How are they getting the money to do that stuff? Their cell phone. I mean, this isn't free. This isn't free. How are they getting the money to do their,
Mommy and daddy.
they're just giving it to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a
But, you
sad
know-
culture. Well, I'm sorry, we have a sad culture.
But not all parents can afford to give their kids what the three of us used to go work odd jobs to afford, gasoline for our car.
Yeah, but if you're poor, you can just go get an Obama phone. So there you go.
Yeah.
Is that, oh, okay.
And the government will pay for the service.
I will leave the last topic up. I'm going to have a open topic that anybody wants to discuss. I've rattled out a few topics. Gray, I will give you an opportunity to list your own topic, and we will discuss it.
Oh man. I'm gonna pass.
Pass.
I've got one.
Okay, Pendo, yours.
How about the red hats versus the blue hats? Huh?
Oh yeah, 2-1, baby. 2-1. I think we got you beat.
Damn. Yeah, but mine's the Beatles, and they were like real big.
The Beatles. Yeah, the Beatles were really big. Yeah, biggest band in the history of music. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, back when people had bands.
I'm going to submit this as our last little topic because I think this is interesting as far as bands, music, arts, culture. And Gray, you're a student of music. The Beatles. Okay, I will submit this as a debate, and this is how we'll end this. That's how we're in this podcast. Okay, I'm going to submit that the Beatles. You talk about the top 10 best bands of all time. Top 10. I will say the top 3 of the top 10 are the Beatles, the Beatles, the Beatles. Number 4, I'd say, would be Led Zeppelin. 5 is Rolling Stones. Now, I'm going to submit to you the reason why I can say that is because you had 3 stages of the Beatles. You had the early Beatles, you had the mid Beatles, and you had the late Beatles. Early Beatles, 1962 to 1964. Mid Beatles, 1965, 66, 67. Late Beatles, 68, 69, 70. I submit either one of those sections of their music is better than any other band that's ever been published. Chris, your thoughts?
All they did was work 24 hours a day. In 6 years, they had 13 triple platinum selling albums. That's 2 a year. They had 27 number 1 hits, which is still the most. 21 in the United States. I think they had 48 top 40 hits. This is all in 6 years. How did they do that? That's insane. Today, when somebody, if there is a band or an act, they'll come out with an album about every 2 or 3 years. They came out with 2 a year, and each album was phenomenal. You're never going to have that.
Some years they had 3.
There were a couple of years they had 3, yeah.
Okay, so do you think that my description is accurate then? That just one of those sections of the Beatles' career is better than any other band?
Dude, any band in the world would love to have a section of a Beatles career.
Including Led Zeppelin, including Rolling Stones,
Oh, yeah,
including
yeah.
the Beach Boys, including the
Because
Eagles.
Led Zeppelin was ripping their songs off anyway. Pissed me off when I found that out.
Would you say that the Beatles from 1962 through 64, and I'm including the year 1964, just that section of their career was better than the Rolling Stones?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say the years 65, 66, 67 for the Beatles was better than the entire career of Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, because they actually wrote all their songs. They didn't steal them.
Would you say the years 68, 69, 1970 for the Beatles was better than the Beach Boys' entire career?
Okay, I'm going out on a limb. I'm going with Herman's Hermits here.
Nah. Gray, your
Hermie!
thoughts. Gray, who do you think is the best band in the history of music?
In the history of music,
The
I
best
think he
band.
means rock and roll.
you mean rock and roll?
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say because you've got major competition with some of the older pieces, bits and
Let's say since 1950. The year 1950.
yeah. So, I think you have different measures of greatness. You have measures of greatness a lot in the Beatles, but you know, you have a lot of a lot of great bands that played a lot of great music. I don't think you can have just one answer because you have voice, you have instrumentation. You know, I think, for example, here's a good example. I think the instrumentation for the band Chicago blows apart almost all of them. They've got wind instruments, brass, they've got strings, they've got piano, they've got organ, they got all these different. So if you try to compare that to the Beatles' three guitars and a drum, you know, it's going to beat that.
Hey, I'll
But-
see you in Chicago and raise you an ELO.
Nah,
Okay. Yeah, ELO is one of those.
ELO was really good.
Yeah, they started a lot of the strange sounds that came into the music. You know, they not just a sound from an instrument. I can't think of the word for it. But, so anyway, but as far as overall, I would say the Beatles are in the top 2 or 3. I'd have to think.
Well, who's better? Who would you rank higher than the Beatles?
Well, I wouldn't right now. I wouldn't. I mean, I know we've had this discussion of who's the greatest musician in terms of singing voice, and I still go with Luciano Pavarotti over.
He's got a
I
great
do
voice.
with him, but for pop music, I'm going to go with Elvis.
Yeah, but pop
Elvis
music.
was
pop
great too.
Yeah, Elvis had a lot of greatness to him.
As far
He
as
was a great
musician,
voice.
I'm going to go with Mozart.
You mean the best musician ever?
Yes.
Better than Beethoven.
I
Better than
would say,
Beethoven.
I would
Yeah.
say I would go as far as say Beethoven just because of the genius behind it. I mean, Mozart's music was all written in a short time period. He was, you know, it's really sad because he died when he was 33 years old. But,
True.
but-
But he wrote his first sonata at the age of 3.
Oh, I know. No, I know. Beethoven
That's
was
incredible.
did it at 5, but then Beethoven wrote most of his music when he was either partially or fully deaf.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
That's
insane.
unbelievable.
And-
That's
yeah,
the equivalent of Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel blind.
yeah.
I mean, just put that in
That's
context.
what I'm saying is the greatness comes to these people as I honestly believe as a gift from God.
Yeah,
And
but you know
God-
what? I think you guys have forgotten just
Well,
how
they-
great
they have.
Snoop
They have.
Dogg
The
can press
greatness,
buttons on a Casio.
the greatness comes. The greatness comes. I honestly believe that these individuals are gifts to us for a short time period from God. When they're given this, like Rush Limbaugh used to say, talent on loan from God. I honestly believe that these people are 1 in a million, and we don't get to experience that when people are hiding their talents under a bushel basket, playing on their phones. You know, so that's all I have to say, guys. I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I got to go eat too.
Okay, so here
Hey,
concludes
Gray, nice meeting you.
another
Good to see you. Thank you.
exciting episode of Insanity Island. It's
We're crazy.
insane.
We're insane.
Insane. Okay, over and out. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Later.